Hello and welcome to My Security TV, our Tech and Sec Weekly. This is our Tuesday afternoon edition with My Security Media, and we're also going to be joined today. My name is Chris Covage. I'm the Executive Editor with My Security Media, and we're going to be looking at sort of the big infrastructure technology, and then we're going to move down into the micro sensors and wearable technology in these two interviews today. We're going to be joined by Peter Bannister, the Group Managing Director with Fibre Expressway. This is a $1.5 billion project called Koite, which is a Japanese word for on beyond or go beyond. And we'll hear more about this, but effectively they're going to be building some global digital hubs in Western Australia and the Northern Territory. So it looks like a very interesting project and quite a large project. Then we're going to be looking at micro-wearable sensors, these tiny medtech sensors that are designed to save lives. We're going to be joined by Mark Kendall, who is an inventor, but he's also heads up WearOptimo, and he's also with the Australian National University. And I've got some notes on WearOptimo. It's one of the first sort of cutouts, and they're heading into a $30 million production line for these wearables to be mass produced. So again, that's going to be in Queensland. So very Australian focused today, but some very good technology stories coming out of Australia. Now we're going to dive into from subsea cables and critical technology, critical infrastructure. We're now going to be joined by Professor Mark Kendall of WearOptimo and the Australian National University, and looking at micro-wearable sensors, tiny medtech to save lives. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Oh, and good audio too. Yeah, maybe you're going to a $30 million production cycle and part of that deal. So, yeah, there's a lot here to unpack, despite the size of these wearables. Because, yeah, maybe let's just start with the micro sensor. Because if we get into your background, we're going to get lost too. We're not restricted by time on this one. But yeah, maybe just talk us through what these sensors are doing and then the capability. It sounds like we could do quite a lot with these.
That's right. So our technology are called micro-wearable sensors. This is an example of one of our prototypes just here. And it's interesting if we contrast it with something that we've all seen and know, which is just here, which is as an Apple Watch. When we think of wearable devices, we tend to think of things like this. And it's interesting. So Apple Watches have only really been around for about 5-6 years, yet they feel as though they've been here forever. But on the grand scheme of things, when we're thinking about medical devices, these are not that. They're very much essentially toys. And one of the things that's holding back things like Apple Watches is they're unable to reach in and gain access to the signals, a lot of the signals that matter for healthcare. And that's where we come in with our micro-wearables. So our micro-wearables, under a microscope, you'd see tiny little structures that reach a hair's width into the skin and gain access to those biomarkers. We're talking about biomarkers for things like early detection of a heart attack, as one example. Another is the continuous monitoring of hydration. And you might be thinking, well, if you pick up sweat, you should be able to pick up hydration. Not really the case at all. Sweat's a very, very poor predictor of hydration. So that's what it is, but an example of the device in action, if you like, is here's a sensor, and this is our app that we have. And if I do a readout of this, so tap it, so read, ready to scan, tap, so it's picked up the signal. And then there's an instantaneous readout of my particular hydration level just now. So that's just one example of what our technology is about, the micro-wearable sensor.
Is it calibrated for each purpose, or a bit like that app where you can turn different functionality on for the same sensor? Or, yeah, are you buying a sort of a hydration sensor, or are you buying a monitoring sort of heart sensor, or can it do both at the same time?
So it's a broad platform, but it's tuned for particular applications. So in the first instance, when one purchases a hydration sensor, that's what they'll get. And if they purchase a troponin, a cardiac sensor, that's what they get. Over time, what we see is a thing called multiplexing, which is where there'll be more than one signal that you can pick up. But we need to walk before we run.
Fair enough. Maybe talk us through the production arrangements that you've got. I think we'll come back to the sensor, but yeah, the main announcement was you're partnering with Queensland Government, the Australian National University, obviously the company itself, WearOptimo, and the Australian National Fabrication Facility. In fact, we had the AMGC, the Australian Manufacturing Growth Centre CEO on recently as well. So this is a $30 million globally competitive high-tech manufacturing facility going to be based, I take it, in Queensland for the production of micro-wearable sensors to reach key healthcare markets. So you're obviously ready for mass production. What's the journey been so far to get it to this? You're an inventor. I liked your LinkedIn profile. And if anyone's watching, check Mark out. But you're the inventor, correct?
Oh, one inventor, yeah,
yeah,
not the only. So there's plenty of inventive energy within the team. We have a fantastic team here at WearOptimo. So you asked about the journey to get here. Well, it's probably like a lot of things that you hear. It's an overnight success, 23 years in the making.
I was going to say you were bored, had nothing to do during COVID, and just started it last year. No, I'm glad it's taken you 20 years. I'd be disappointed if it didn't.
Yeah. So essentially, it's that domain knowledge for the things I've been involved in and have driven before. And if we take a look at the last 12 months, it's changed so many things in so many unpredictable ways. Of course, the pandemic hit. We're just past the 12-month anniversary of the declaration of it being a pandemic, and it feels like longer than that. But that's all it's been. And of course, you take a look at the minor miracle of vaccines being rolled out well within then. That's extraordinary. So we are in extraordinary times in many different ways. If we take a look at WearOptimo, so pre-COVID, I think we were planning to conduct a good slice of our manufacturing offshore. That's just how things were done then. And COVID came along and basically changed everything. And as an engineer and an inventor, I welcome it. I think it's fantastic because now I'm really excited that we have here in Brisbane the blueprint fully funded now for end-to-end production of about 26 million micro-wearables per year, which turns out to be one for every man, woman and child in the country, just by coincidence. And it's all done here with our partners, end-to-end production. So the concept is Australian, the intellectual property estate is, the proof of concept data is Australian as well. And we've heard that story before in many different contexts before, but now we're also taking that critical next step, and we're doing it here. And I'm hugely excited by it. I can see there's so many advantages to this. I'm a real believer in the idea of a specialness of a project. So if something feels special to somebody, they put more in. And as you're probably aware, you get out what you put in. And if we did this as just through a contract manufacturer offshore, we'd just be another job on the list. Here, we'll be working closely with this whole thing. We'll be working closely with our R&D team, so it'll be an extension of that. So, I'm hugely excited by this announcement.
Okay, well, look, there's a couple of. One is the platform itself that I wouldn't mind having a talk about. Then the other is the production and the manufacturing processes that you might be using. But let's start with the platform, because we've talked about hydration and sort of heart monitoring and the like. How much can it be designed to monitor on a human body? And then, because one of the things was, obviously we cover off on security, but then there's the safety. You're looking at the health market, which is fine, but then I see a lot of opportunity here if you can just stick it on during sort of an isolated work process, or if you're working in sort of hostile environments, what it can start to monitor. How much can this platform actually do, or are you sort of at that limitation already in terms of the tech, that what it can do?
No, so the limitation is the reverse, really. So the platform has broad utility. The limitation is we can't do everything. So we've needed to choose where we begin first. But the rate determining step is not so much the concepts of the micro-wearable platform. It's how, with a given amount of capital, where you should deploy and where you should deploy first for a given market need. So we're choosing to begin. So we have a 10-year roadmap of what we'd like to achieve, and there's a lot of caveats and assumptions with that. But and part of that is raising the capital that we believe we need. So you might think $30 million it's a huge number, and it is. For us to fully execute on what we need to do, we'll need more capital than that.
Yeah. We're just talking to 1.5 billion project there over in WA. We'll put you in contact. They might have some spare change out of that.
That's right. Yeah. That didn't escape my attention. But where we're beginning on our journey for products is the hydration micro-wearable sensor. It's the simplest, minimal viable product, and we're starting with sectors that are crying out for this. So whereabouts are you calling in from?
I'm Sydney.
You're in Sydney? Okay. So, and the previous speaker was in Western Australia, correct?
Yeah. Perth, yep.
Yeah, so Western Australia, and I'm calling in from Queensland here. So both of those states have big footprints in mining, right? Mining, energy resources sector. And the need for a vastly improved hydration monitoring is huge within that. Now, the way it's currently done is unbelievably rudimentary. It's a sticker on the wall asking you what colour your pee is. That's it. And there actually is a duty of care of employers to provide the best possible support as a form of PPE, if you will. And so they're required by legislation that once this is up and running, to be using our hydration micro-wearable to look after the people working in those extreme environments that you referred to. And the stakes are pretty high, surprisingly high. So if you're 1.5% dehydrated, it's not a big number, but if you are, the effect it has on your cognitive function is the equivalent of having a few alcoholic drinks. Now, if you throw in the fact that you're driving a 300-ton coal hauler, then there's issues there. There are things that need to be managed. So there's a massive market there, and it's a very nice kind of closed loop for Australia and Australian tech in the mining sector. On top of that, your picture there, I can see there's a sort of looks like a drone, perhaps, or is that the loyal wingman? I'm not sure what that background picture is.
It could be which one on the picture, or I've got it. It could be. Oh yeah, you're right. It is. It's a drone, but it could be. I've got an F-35 up there too.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure which one you're seeing.
Both will do. They're segues into the military, and another extreme environment is troops in the field, loaded up with tens of kilograms of equipment out in the field and managing their hydration levels. So we understand that's a critical area that the military cares about, and we're in discussions with them on that.
Yeah.
So they're two immediate markets.
Well, I suppose one question would be, these are disposable. How cheap are they? Like, have you got a price that they would be at the moment? And if you're talking about sort of mining, military, then sounds like they will be disposable. They won't be on. They'll just be on while you're on shift. So
correct. Yep.
Yeah.
So we've designed these to be extremely low cost as part of the solution. Of course, we have the app that goes with it and the reader. In the simplest embodiment, though, it's a tech that already exists, something like your iPhone. There are some interesting things about the user case in the mining situation, where if you're in an underground mine, you're not allowed to take a mobile phone in. And I suppose, why would you anyway? They can't work down there. So we'll be needing our own bespoke reader for that sort of situation. But yes, a single-use disposable sensor for a shift would be one example, or a mission. And so each shift you put on an additional sticker, that kind of idea.
Well, the other thing is, because you're linked in Queensland there, I was going to wonder what you're doing potentially in the space, or that might bring us to the manufacturing process. But just to finish on the platform, where's the innovation been? I imagine there's multiple sort of layers of innovation, but is it in the size of this and how small you've been able to get this, and then have it just looks like it's just on a sticker, you don't have to embed it or anything like that? And is it something that may go to that next layer where you can sort of embed it in the body?
So the core innovation is the thing that you actually can't see with the naked eye, which is the way our microstructures interface with the skin and what they do in doing that. So they reach into just this next layer down, which is only hair's width thick, called the viable epidermis, right? And we uniquely and accurately interrogate that layer, which is a portal to all manner of things that are taking place within the body. So at its core, that's what our tech does. There's other aspects to this, the way we sense for particular biomarkers. I won't go into how the chemistry works, but a good way of thinking about it is it's like Lego pieces. There's a particular type of microscopic Lego on those structures in the skin that only click for a particular molecule, and that's it. And then that changes the signal when that clicking takes place. There are a couple. Probably another thing to mention is the fields we're moving into. The competition's very low end at the moment. It's massive needs, massive opportunities. I've not even talked about the aged care setting, which we've had the Royal Commission complete just recently, and there's text written in there. We need better. There's requirements, recommendations for better and continuous monitoring of hydration, as an example, because I haven't talked about this here, but touching on it briefly, as we get older, the way we're wired in our body is that we deteriorate in the signal for wanting to have a drink of water. So we forget the need to drink. It's an interesting phenomenon. It's also, just a little aside, our taste buds change as we get older as well. So if you're talking to an elderly person, they say it doesn't taste the way it used to. They're right. It doesn't. Things have changed. But if we lose the ability to know that we need to drink water and stay hydrated, then we need these sorts of technologies to help. And then you've got the situation in an aged care setting where understaffed, massively stretched resources, this type of technology, the micro-wearable sensor, could really make a difference.
Yeah, definitely. I did like, I mean, obviously in the health sector, but you've already mentioned sort of productivity in sort of operational areas as well. How far down that roadmap will be things? Because even from a security perspective, you could put that sort of to use in some way as well, in terms of monitoring even just someone's okay. It could be as simple as that, as long as you've got that connectivity, I imagine. Maybe come to the production of this and how easy it is going to produce. How much of it sort of an advanced manufacturing process has been implemented for this, or has it been quite a simple process? That's kind of another bonus of the tech, is that it's relatively simple to produce.
So I'm under no illusions, and this is not my first rodeo. It's never easy, and there's always surprises that come from left field. Having said that, the centerpiece of the advanced manufacturing is a well-established lithography approach, and we've got the manufacturer identified, and it's very much a kind of plug and play for the centerpiece for pushing out millions of these sensors per year. Now, there'll be still quite a lot involved in commissioning that and getting the settings right for what we're doing. But of course, once they're in place, then it's very much off you go. So that's probably a starting point in this. I'd also say that we have 10 partners here in Brisbane to allow us to do end-to-end production. The flexible circuit board is one example, and there's many other areas as well.
What about, I'm jumping around a little bit, I was going to ask a question around sort of sport applications as well, but is it manufactured is it using any particular special material or metal?
So it's a polymer-based device, so aka a type of plastic. So it feels like a sticker sensor because that's effectively what it is, with the exception of these small structures that are polymer-based that go just a hair's width into the skin. The sports applications are a great comment. So that's another example of an extreme environment, right? So someone running in a marathon, that's an extreme situation in an extreme environment. We do have a growing partnership with the Queensland Academy of Sport on this, and have had some discussions with Tennis Australia as well. And I'm not saying I'm not announcing anything there. We're not announcing partnerships, but they're discussions.
You heard it here first.
But they're discussions because people can see these elite athletes are looking for just that extra edge. And you look historically at something like a tennis tournament. Managing hydration is a big deal in a tennis match. So there's no shortage of applications.
Very good. I'm getting very slight delay on it. It might be at my end. I've had it before, but I imagine the audio is coming through. So when do you actually get started? Where are you at now? You mentioned you're kind of in that sort of initial process and design phase in order to ramp it up. What's your time frame?
So we have working prototypes right now. We have an established intellectual property estate, fantastic world-leading team with people with PhDs from Oxford, Cambridge, Stanford, Boston University, other fine institutions, fine Australian institutions as well, of course. And this project, we're down selecting now the site where we'll be building the facility. We're in discussions with the manufacturers for the equipment, for ordering the equipment. There's all manner of things that are underway. We need to build the team out as well. As I said in the announcement with the Queensland government, there's this particular project alone is targeted to generate about 90 new jobs, and that's what we're doing. We'll be looking for a head of manufacturing as one example. So there's a lot going on.
Very good. And any of our audience that are in the cybersecurity field, have you had this tested in terms of potential vulnerabilities in the way it's processing data? It doesn't sound like it's too much like personal identifiable data, but it's not tracking necessarily either, is it? What type of assessments have you done on that side?
Yes, we've been keeping both eyes firmly on that. As one example, in the military setting, we wouldn't want a situation where the sensor is actually detectable as a way of picking up someone in the field. There's a troop just there. So one of the kind of saving graces of the tech is it's near-field communication. So it's only point-to-point short distance. So it only works in that context and setting. And so there's a lot of inherent security that just comes with that in its own right. And there's all of the other things you'd be expecting to make it unhackable, end-to-end encrypting, etc. But we do take the security component seriously. And I suppose you could say it's one embodiment of the vision of what WearOptimo is, which is just three things. The first is to take out these micro-wearables as rapidly and as sensibly as possible for global healthcare applications. But the second is, which is to my point, is WearOptimo is a national asset. And so what that means is that there's something that's happening in Australia that we feel as though we can help with, we do. And so security is a component of that.
Very good. Did you do much work? Oh, sorry, go. Sorry. That's that delay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. And the third one is we have an open model here, and we're training the next generation of innovators. They're learning how to do this. That's something that I had the privilege of being exposed to when I was at Oxford, a lecturer at Oxford University, and just so happened to be at the right place at the right time for Oxford's most successful spin-off company, which was sold to a vaccines company back in 2003 for $1.3 billion. So I learned many aspects of that. It was an amazing apprenticeship in innovation, and that was a gift that was given to me, and it's something that we're passing on to others here, so they're doing this in their own right down the line, we hope.
I did. There's a note here. It's the first. It's the first something coming out of Australian National University. I can't find the notes. Is it the first commercial spin out? Can't be the first commercial spin out.
No,
it's the first of something.
Yeah, it is. It's a new model, so it's the first partner innovation company. So I'm glad you raised it, because on the front of our building is the WearOptimo logo, but it's the Australian National University logo as well. And the ANU, led by Brian Schmidt, they want to change up how innovation gets done and make a difference. And that was a vision that was laid down and put to work well before COVID hit. But it's become even more important now. So the way we're doing things has attracted great interest from the Australian innovation ecosystem and the federal government. And we're not a spin-out company. We are a standalone company that ANU invested into from the very beginning, and we're a private company, heavily supported by the ANU and, of course, the other partners we've discussed already. And we're building our own IP estate. We're applying the agile methodology. We're moving quickly, but it's a high trust model. So it's Brian's said to me, I've asked what's our KPI, and he said, just succeed. You're good at what you're doing. Let us support you and get on with it.
Very good. I found it's the first innovation company in the release, and you've signed this deal for Aspen Medical, so it'll be one of their sort of product rollouts. So as you say, you've been, I think, was it 27 years? I've got 20 plus, but 27 was the total. You've been...
It feels like 27, but it was 23. Yeah,
23, sorry, okay.
That's
Look,
okay.
It's a 23-year journey, and technically it's only just starting now when you think about it, once you've got into that product production. So, but it's definitely something to be congratulated on. One question, did you do much work with the Australian Manufacturing Growth Centre? Have you had much assistance as part of that ecosystem as well?
So we've had some conversations with them, and they've gathered steam recently. So we've hit the phase now where I think there'll be a lot more connectivity with that centre, but we've needed to work our tech up to a certain point, which we've been at for a little while now. So yeah, that's in front of us.
Well, having spoken to Dr. Ernst Gunneman, he would definitely be willing to support you in any way, I'm sure. But it sounds like you're already on the way. And as you say, the end-to-end sort of production line here in Australia, Australian innovation, and to be Australian produced. So if anyone has been sort of monitoring us and the interviews that we've been doing, this has been sort of a theme that we've been covering for some periods of time, and it's always great to see. Hasn't been too hard to find either, actually, Mark, to be honest. So there's a number of innovators out there that are sort of really making inroads, and COVID does seem to change the game a little bit and sort of brought it home. I mentioned before, I don't know if you're on, in terms of, I try to avoid the word sovereignty, but this is the good end of sovereignty rather than the defensive end. So look, Mark, what I'll do is I'll just bring this up. Professor Mark Kendall, who's with WearOptimo and the Australian National University, looking at their micro sensors and their health tech. So very well done. Let me just bring this on. So look, thank you so much. And that's their sensors right there. I think we've got a number of well, this is an article on our Smart Cities Tech channel, and we'll have some of the images on there as well, and I'll put the link in the show notes. So look, thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate your time and enjoy your sunny Queensland afternoon.
Thanks. It's actually raining, but yeah, thank you.
Fair enough. Just really quick. Okay, all the best. Thanks again. Cheers. Bye. Okay, very good. Very interesting. And that was a very interesting episode when we look at the types of stuff that we've covered and discussed. So without further ado, and just to finish off for the day, we're just coming up to that full hour, a book launch. And well done to Claire Pales and Anna Lebel, who have launched their new book, The Secure Board, How to Be Confident That Your Organisation is Cyber Safe. We have had Claire on our channels in the past, and she does do her own, I think it's rebranded podcast, and I'm yet to even read this book, but I'm sure it's a cracker, and hopefully I'll get a copy and we can do some giveaways potentially, but I'm going to invite the ladies on for an interview soon. So thank you very much. That was it from us. If you want to support the channel, check out our Cyber War Series t-shirt range. Even if you just want one and want to check one out, let me know, and I might be able to do a giveaway for you. Start to get them out there. So look, thank you very much. That's it from us at the MySecurity Marketplace. Enjoy your day.